inventory is still tight. So you have a lot of would-be sellers, potential sellers needing to sell their home first before buying. And that's bringing in a lot of use and occupancy or lease back language into potential offers.
Yep.
How do you see that altering deals? What is use and occupancy? What is the lease back that you're seeing?
Yeah, so a use and occupancy agreement, or sometimes referred to as a leaseback agreement, although I will say a lot of realtors use that term, and it's not the proper definition, because you don't want to give anyone a lease involved in a sale transaction, because that gives them certain tenants' rights, and we don't want people having any rights, because we want them to get out of there as soon as we need them out. So anyway, we have been seeing an uptick in the use of these arrangements, and they're fairly common. I've done them over the course of my career and the past couple of years on more than many occasions. What it does is it gives flexibility for the parties so that they can consummate a transaction where one of the parties still needs another place to move to. So you mentioned inventory's tight.
Right.
If you're a seller, you want to sell, but you might not be able to get your offer accepted on the other side because you have a home sale contingency, or you need to sell to get the cash out to buy the next place. Or you just have no idea where you're going because nothing is on the market. You don't know if you're going to a rental, you don't know if you're buying, you don't know, or maybe you're moving out of state. So typically on a seller that needs that flexibility, it's called a post-closing use and occupancy agreement, where the seller will stay in the property, the buyer purchases it, we have a regular closing, the seller stays, and for a term of months, most commonly it's up to 2 months, because if a buyer gets a residential mortgage, there's a restriction in the mortgage on how long the buyer can wait before they occupy, and it's 60 days. So
mortgage police.
Within 60 days, or else the mortgage police will come get you. So typically that's the scenario. We'll do the closing, the seller will stay. Usually the seller will continue to pay utilities. They'll continue to pay the water bill, their own cable, heat, all that stuff. It's almost like a rental agreement. And then we'll draft a use and occupancy agreement, me and the other attorney. It's essentially like a short form lease. It's usually 2 or 3 pages. And just outlines the terms of what the obligations of the parties are, whether they maintain insurance, whether they're going to pay a fee to stay there. Usually they do pay a fee, which is either the equivalent of a monthly rent, maybe it's the equivalent of the buyer's carrying costs, their mortgage payment, their taxes, their insurance, that sort of thing. And then that'll be signed at closing. Just like a lease, typically we have a security deposit. So then when the seller is supposed to move out, we do another walkthrough with the buyers, make sure they're out of there, nothing's damaged, and then we release the money. So again, it provides flexibility so that in a tight market, the seller can stay a little bit, get their money that they need to go make another purchase or find a rental. And my phone is going off, so that's not good. And in the other scenario, sometimes there's also what's called a pre-closing use and occupancy, which that might be the buyer has to move in. They're not ready to close yet, but they have to get out of the place that they're selling, or their rental is up, and their landlord's throwing them out. It's the same sort of arrangement, same type of agreement, except the buyer is moving in before they buy, and then they end up accepting the property as it is at that time, as if it were closing, and then usually paying the seller a fee to stay there prior to the closing. So they can be helpful tools and instruments to make a deal happen. And I would definitely encourage people to consider them in this tight market.
This market,
yeah, for sure.